September meeting of the Santa Cruz County Board of Education to order, and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Trustee Acosta. Trustee Alto.
Here.
Trustee Nichols.
Here.
Trustee Roth. Trustee Sanchez.
Here.
President Van Allen.
Here. Thank you. We have just made a quorum, so we're going to go ahead with the meeting. Now is the time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Dr. Sabah to lead us.
Please rise if you can. Face the flag, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, trustees. Now is the time to approve our agenda, and I'd like a motion, please.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Motion by Nichols.
I'll second.
Second by Alto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of all present. Now is the time for public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone from the public to address the board on subjects not on tonight's agenda. And if you wish to address us, there's some little slips to fill out over on the side counter there, so we know who you are. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to address the board today on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, thank you. We'll close the public comment and move to the consent agenda. I want to acknowledge on the consent agenda, we have some generous gifts. And we're also looking at our alternative education consolidation application. Trustees, any comments or removals or motion for approval for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Sanchez, second by Nichols. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of all present. Now we're at item 6, correspondence. Is there any correspondence other than what was in the agenda packet?
There are no correspondences, President Van Allen.
Thank you. We are now to new business, section 7, and the first item is number 7.1, which is to adopt the plan and fill a student trustee vacancy on the Santa Cruz County Board of Education. And I'm going to first just describe what our process will be, and then we will move on to interviews of the applicants. We have made the decision to have a student trustee position, at least one, on this board. And so this is the first time this board has engaged in this. We have 5 applicants this time, and our board has 3 questions to ask of each applicant. And if we have time, we have 2 more questions to ask each one. We'll see how that goes. All of the questions, after all of the questions have been asked and answered, trustees from here may ask additional questions. Once all trustee questions have been asked and answered, then I will open the floor for any public comment. This will be an opportunity for the public to address the board regarding any or all applicants, and speakers from the public will be given up to 3 minutes, unless we're really short on time, and then it'll have to be shorter. The board will then deliberate on the applicants, and the scorecards, which we will all be using, will be tallied, and then I will ask for a motion to select the candidate, and we will have a roll call vote, meaning each person identifies their vote on the candidate named in the motion. So that's our process for today, and I'm kind of excited about this. We're making a little history here with that student trustee. So now it will be time to begin the interviews, and we've asked the students to only appear one at a time at this chair, and so I'll ask the first student. Are we going to go in the list that they're on our agenda? So the first applicant for us to interview is Laurel J. Finlayson from Harbor High. Laurel, would you like to come up and join us here?
And we'd like to ask the students, as we discussed earlier, if you could follow Mr. Andres Ortiz to the a conference room.
So trustees, I'm going to ask that we alternate who asks the questions. They're the three main questions. And so what I want to do is just start down at Sandra's end and we'll kind of work around, but we'll may alternate who asks, but the main thing is that all of us will be asking, and you should have those questions in your packet. Okay. Laurel, welcome, and thank you for putting up with us.
Hello.
Okay, so you're on. Yeah, good. Okay, then I would like to ask Trustee Nichols to ask the first question of Laurel Finlayson, and we will go from there.
Okay, here's question number 1. Please tell us why you're interested in serving as a student trustee on the County Board of Education.
So my name's Laurel Finlayson. I am a senior at Harbor High School, and I'm interested in serving on the County Board of Education as a student trustee because I want to help make a positive change for our county's students. Being able to be a voice for fellow students to call attention to our concerns and advocate for our educational needs would be an honor to me.
Thank you. Trustee Alto, the next question.
All right. Please briefly describe your background and experience in education and student advocacy. Can you provide an example of a specific initiative or project you would like to work on as a student trustee and why it would be important to you?
All right, so a little bit about me. I participate in my school's MESA and GSA clubs. I attended the Student Trustee Academy over the summer that was hosted by the County Board of Education. And I recently joined the Superintendent's Advisory Council for this district. And one project that I'm really interested in learning more about and kind of working on if I became a student trustee was improving sustainability within our schools. Specifically reducing waste and implementing composting rules and more native plants on our school grounds, I think would be really cool.
Thank you. Trustee Sanchez, the next question.
Thank you. Welcome, Laurel. How do you envision advocating for equity, diversity, and inclusion in our county's education system? And what steps would you take to ensure all students have equal access to opportunities and resources?
Well, to me, making sure every person within this county feels encouraged to grow academically and as individuals is incredibly important. Gathering input from other students with different backgrounds from me would be crucial in my opinion, because I am only one person. So being able to hear from other students about what I can do better if I was a trustee, having that extra power would be, I would need to use it to communicate well, in my opinion. And just being a respectful leader and working in an encouraging environment with other student leaders to make better collaboration and a greater positive impact would be really important. Along with this, in my opinion, we need to tailor learning experiences more towards specific groups and making sure that people of all backgrounds get the same opportunities to thrive in their education.
Thank you. Something we didn't work out was how did we decide if we're going to ask the fourth and fifth questions? Are we going to go all the way around and then come back, or why don't we just go ahead and do them? This is taking not a whole lot of time, so. Okay, I will ask the next question. How would you gather input and feedback from your fellow students to ensure their voices are represented on the board?
I would really like to utilize online services. Specifically, one of them would be Google Forms to allow students to have an organized and efficient way of contacting me and everyone else who's involved. So they can give comments and concerns and feedback just in general. Some ways that I would make this more available would be by putting them up in physical school buildings, like printing them out on paper and like maybe on flyers and stuff like that. And also on school websites, having links to them so people know about it more. Because I think a big problem that we have is that as students, we don't really know we have these kinds of resources. So just making sure that we know about them is really important. So I think that would be good. Another way is through social media. I think could be really helpful, like having a place where students could easily just like write little comments about whatever they're having issues with or wanting to speak on. And just having a place for students to kind of collect together and speak about current projects that we're working on.
Thank you. Sandra, do you want to ask the fifth question?
I think I can. Yes. Can you share an example of a challenging situation you faced in a leadership role and how you handled it?
So I'm pretty new to leadership. Up until a couple years ago, I've been kind of intimidated by the process of getting into it, but one of the experiences that really helped me come out of my shell in that regard was going through the Student Trustee Academy. Just kind of learning some more skills of leadership and how to kind of uh, step up into that role was really, it was challenging, but it was really good. Specifically, one example I have last year, I'm in IB biology at my school, which can be a lot of work. It's a very fun class, but it's a lot of work. So helping organize our classes and like getting study guides together and making like meetings in order to keep everyone doing their best work it was challenging, but it was really rewarding.
Good, thank you. So that concludes our 5 questions for Laurel. And we've done this before, so I keep forgetting what our plan is. Is this the time for our board members to ask follow-up questions for this student? I think so, yeah. So trustees, any follow-up questions?
Spontaneous questions?
I
have none.
Okay, Trustee Sanchez?
I don't have a follow-up question, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to be here. I always appreciate, hearing from a student, and that just makes me really excited that you would be interested in joining our board. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Laurel. So we'll ask for you to stand down and the next person will interview, but if you can hang around because we will make our decision today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I really appreciate your coming today.
And I want to apologize.
Let's pause for a moment and get Sue oriented. So
Actually, since it's okay, and this happens sometimes in interviews. My recommendation to the board is, since you missed most of the interview, that you would abstain from the process because there's no way for you to compare. And so, which would mean not participating in the discussion or in the voting process.
Can you want me to?
No. I just, it wouldn't be fair because you
No,
wouldn't have
that's
a,
why I
terms of interview
apologize.
that would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you.
okay, then I don't need to instruct you much on the questions and stuff, but you can follow along. But most of the green folder has the material for this set of interviews.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay, we will now ask the,
Hold on
Oh.
1 second.
This isn't my process, but I did just want to clarify something that Sandra had said earlier about, can we just ask like a random question? And I think in this type of proceeding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you really want to stick with the same questions and not ask any additional random questions, not related to the original question on the page, unless you want to, maybe reiterate what that candidate's saying. That way everyone gets the exact same questions for you to judge their performance on. And if I'm incorrect and for interrupting, I apologize. I just wanted to clarify that for you.
I appreciate
you.
that. If I can
Yeah,
add to
no.
that, so the only appropriate question would be a clarifying question, which we expand. If somebody says, well, this project I did, and you could say, could you please expand on that? That would be the only time that would be appropriate.
This is a formal interview, so we got to treat it like a job interview. Is that okay with everybody? We're good with that. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, for reminding us about that. That's part of why I was confused about it. But it wasn't the main reason. Maybe I was just confused. Okay, we will now ask the next applicant, Neely Pfeiffer, to come in.
Hi, everyone. My name is Neely. I go to Soquel.
Good, welcome. So we have some questions we're going to ask, and we're just going to go down the line here and ask them of you. I think you've seen them in advance. So this time we'll start with Alyssa, and we'll just go down the line.
All right, first question. Please tell us why you're interested in serving as a student trustee on the County Board of Education.
I believe that education is really the #1 indicator for social and economic success. And I've been really lucky in this system to have gained like a knowledge in instruments, music, language, math, everything. And the only way I can give back to that, I feel like, is to be a representative to those around me that maybe haven't been so lucky.
Thank you. And you're ready.
Thank you.
Welcome, Neely. Good to have you here. The second question, please briefly describe your background and experience in education and student advocacy. Can you provide an example of a specific initiative or project you would like to work on as a student trustee and why it is important to you?
Yes, I am a member of my school's site council, just as an attempt to understand what's going on specifically in my school and how I can understand that system and also maybe bring in some of my own input as a student to that system. I'm also a leader in the peer tutor program at my school. I work there 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more. That is also a specific initiative that I want to take on, because as soon as our school started that, it started off pretty slow. But then students have started coming, and like I've got tons of regulars that just come in for like math, English, Spanish that I try my best with. And it's really started this big community because kids have vocalized that they do better when they have numerous options as like ways to get involved with their own academic success, especially coming from students rather than teachers, because I know that can seem kind of daunting, especially since I go for help specifically like with my classmates and stuff. But if they don't have that access, then it's also good to have people that they recognize that aren't students. And since some of like, I've noticed kids have come up to me and said, hey, my grades have improved. I really want every school to have a chance to like experience that. Like, it feels really good.
Thank you. Oh, so I guess that's me. Third question is, how do you envision advocating for equity, diversity, and inclusion in our county's education system? And what steps would you take to ensure that all students have equal access to opportunities and resources?
This may seem out of the ordinary, but I'd say like increased rigor for everyone. Not just based off of like the academic side of it, but I've been in base level classes and in advanced placement classes, and just the atmosphere in rigorous classes is different. You feel more respected and more as an equal to the people around you and the teacher. And I feel like a way to promote like equity and diversity is by starting rigor at a younger age, so that like in elementary school, so that when they get into high school, then it's promoting those like diverse and like demographics within advanced placement programs, because I know that those numbers aren't quite where we want them yet. And how can they know if they're hungry for a life in academia or college if they haven't even had that small taste of it? Like everyone should get a taste of the steak, you know? Like should happen.
Good, thank you. Trustee Nichols?
Okay, question number 4 is, how would you gather input and feedback from your fellow students to ensure their voices are represented on the board?
Well, I'm a student currently at SoCal High, but I live in Aptos, and I went to Aptos my freshman year, and I'm really social, and I'm involved in 2 very different student demographics, and I'm very close with them. Like I swim with kids from Aptos still, but I attend school with SoCal kids, and as much as like forms and stuff work, I think the best way is to just go up to people and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, is there anything that's bothering you? Like, this is what they're talking about doing maybe for us. How do you feel about that? And I have no issue, and I'd even want to like go and talk to people and see what's going on, because what's better than a voice of one is a voice of many.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Can you share an example of a challenging situation you faced in a leadership role and how you handled it?
Yes. Like I said, I'm a leader in the peer tutoring program. And in the beginning, we didn't have that many tutors, and it had just started taking flight, and kids were coming in finally, and they were like, oh, can I help? Like, can you help me? And we'd get some really good progress going. And then they'd be like, okay, can I come in tomorrow because I have a test the next day? And I'll be like, oh, sorry, I'm not working that day. And we have no one else that could come in. And I was like, this is a big problem, because we're trying to start a program, and there's no one there to help influence it, no one there to help kids land there and like build the efficiency of it. And I was like, okay, well, what do? I went and recruited new people. So now when we started at, I think like 3, 4 last year, now we have upwards of 6. So which means that we have someone every day there. And I'm really happy about that progress.
Thank you. Trustee Sanchez? Question 5. Oh, I'm sorry, we just did that one. I'm keeping track of too few things compared to what I should be keeping track of. So that concludes our interview of you, and we are going to make a decision today. So we'll ask that you hang around if you'd like to, and
Yeah.
We'll move on to interview the next person. So thank you very much for your interest in this.
Thank you all.
Next, we will ask Nathan Perry to interview.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you.
We have some questions, and we're just going to rotate around the board, asking them of you, and you can take the time you need to answer them. So first question will be from Trustee Sanchez.
Welcome, Nathan. Please tell us why you are interested in serving as a student trustee on the County Board of Education.
For me, student advocacy has been a big part of my life and has been a big passion for me, both in middle school and now in high school. And so this would be like just a great opportunity to do something that I love. And also, I think this position is a great way to like help broadcast student voices from around the county. And I'm really interested in being a part of that. And then also, this is just a great way to help my own personal growth and help develop my public speaking skills and stuff like that. And I think it would be just what's something I'm interested in is just getting to know better how the county works and like how school administration works and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that's why I'm really interested in it.
Great, thank you. I'll ask our next question. Please briefly describe your background and experience in education and student advocacy. Can you provide an example of a specific initiative or project you would like to work on as a student trustee and why it is important to you?
Yeah, so in high school, I've been in our leadership class all 4 years. which is a really cool program we have at SoCal High, and which is basically like our ASB student government. And I've been elected as our class vice president a couple times, and this year I'm serving as our ASB vice president. A role I do as ASB vice president is I am the student or the ASB representative for the SoCal High Fund. So I put in input there and just basically report out on what our school is doing or our ASB is doing. On top of that, I have, it's not necessarily student advocacy, but like public speaking practice. I do mock trial, which is a great program and I love doing it. This is my second year doing that. And this is also my second year doing Model UN. I'm the vice president of our Model UN club. And then another possible thing I might get to do is I applied to be on the principal advisory committee at SoCal High, which if accepted, that'll just be some more experience for me there. And then a specific initiative and stuff that I've been focusing on these past 4 years has been student engagement at our school is something that I try to really push, like just connecting students to programs that we have available. We have a lot of great classes and like CTE programs, like sports med. We have our biotech class, which is great. We have our mock trial club or mock trial program, and then also different programs across the county and as well as clubs. Then also just getting students engaged in like school activities like our dances, our club day and stuff like that is something I really enjoy doing. Because I mean, why student engagement is such a big part of what I do is, I mean, studies show that it decreases dropout and failure rate. And I think like having like that being like sufficiently researched and stuff gives me just more reason to do it.
Good, thank you. Question 3, Sandra.
How do you envision advocating for equity, diversity, and inclusion in our county's education system? And what steps would you take to ensure that all students have equal access and to opportunities and resources?
I think so there's a lot of different voices and opinions in our community. I think just making yourself accessible to all those opinions. We have a lot of clubs and organizations, student-led organizations at our school that visiting these clubs or groups of people, I think is a great way to like broaden your perspective. Unfortunately, a problem I see sometimes in my own student government is people are pretty closed off to like who they engage with and who they talk to and whatnot. But like sort of like going around to clubs like QSA, we have a great multicultural club. We have an Asian student union on our campus and stuff like that, I think is a great way to help bring lots of diversity and broaden your perspective on things, as well as our leadership class has a range of all 4 years of students in it. And we get a lot of information and sort of different ideas in there as well.
Thank you. Trustee Alto, question 4.
How would you gather input and feedback from your fellow students to ensure their voices are represented on the board?
One thing I think is really cool about our ASB government is we have a pretty widely used feedback form, which students from across the school like just put in their feedback and stuff, which sometimes is not something we can directly control, but sometimes it is. And we've been able to use it to make pretty impactful changes on campus. And then also, like I was saying, student organizations like QSA, female empowerment, there's Asian Student Union, multicultural, like I said, and just going to those meetings and seeing what they're doing and what they're trying to do, I think is also a great way that I would, And then also just like one-on-one connection with students and stuff like that. I think something great that our district student trustee did last year was she basically like broadcasted her email to the whole school and stuff like that, and just making yourself accessible to students and basically taking down any barriers that would prevent you from connecting with students one-on-one and stuff like that. And yeah, as well as, like I said earlier, like if I do get accepted onto the principal advisory committee, I think, which is a board of students basically having a conversation with the principal. I think I could take what I hear there and bring it here too, if need be.
Good. Thank you. Trustee Sanchez, question 5.
Can you share an example of a challenging situation you faced in a leadership role and how you handled it?
Yeah, so one experience I've had that was actually kind of unexpectedly challenging is I help advise the freshman class on, because they're new, like especially now with homecoming and stuff and how they want to do their float and whatnot. And actually a challenge for me has been sort of almost letting them like make mistakes or like do things that I knew wouldn't turn out well. Like I obviously give my advice and my input and be like, do my best I can, but like sort of resisting the urge to try to control everything for them a little bit and like letting them go through the process. Cause I remember when I was a freshman in the same boat, sort of, it was definitely, yeah, what like just making those mistakes and gaining that experience is what helped me become the leader I am today. And I think just sort of letting them go through that process is something that's super important. And yeah, that's been one of the sort of a challenge I've had to overcome almost.
Great, thank you. Trustees, any follow-up clarification questions? Okay. Nathan, thank you very much. We're going to make our decision this afternoon,
Awesome.
so I hope you'll hang around. But that completes this stage, and we'll ask for the next person.
Awesome. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Next person is Oscar Alvarez. Welcome, Oscar.
Thank you. Just feeling the nerves a little, but
That's fine. Yeah. Well, we're really glad you're here. And we have 5 questions that we're going to ask. And I get to ask the first one. Please tell us why you are interested in serving as a student trustee on the County Board of Education.
I feel like I want to be part of the student trustee for the County Board of Education because I feel like there is an underrepresentation for people from my area, more so because people from my area, they don't speak their voice as much as I would want them to speak their voice. Many of us face challenges due for me personally. I have immigrant parents. They have a lot of academic pressure on me. And I know it made my mental health go down quite a bit at one point. And I felt like there wasn't enough support for me as I was dealing through just very bad circumstances with me mentally. And there just wasn't enough support to keep me going throughout my academic time as a junior. I felt this last year. I had mostly my friends to support me, but no one else really reached out to me. It was just solely me. And I feel like I could represent all these other people who are going through the same struggles I am, facing all these academic pressures from all their immigrant parents, expecting them to succeed. And I know when you don't reach those academic standards that your parents or someone puts for you, it feels like you failed them. And it's just hard. It's just hard to recover from. Yeah, that's what I want to say. And I feel like I could through this represent the needs of these people, the needs of fellow peers who are struggling through the same thing I was struggling at some point, who could overcome these obstacles in a better way that I did, instead of me by myself pushing through it. I could feel like they need the support. And I feel like through this, I could voice their support. I could voice their needs. I could voice their struggles for everyone in the same circumstances I was in.
Thank you. Trustee Nicholas asked question number 2.
Please briefly describe your background and experience in education and student advocacy. Can you provide an example of a specific initiative or project you would like to work on as a student trustee and why it's important to you?
Yeah, I would say student advocacy is very limited, as this is my one of my first times really trying to, after my experience, really trying to show support for them. I can't say that education is a lot of struggle. Yeah, and something that I would like to take initiative as a project is finding support for these people that need the support mentally, that don't have the support, that don't get the support from their house. Because many immigrant parents, they don't think of mental health. They only think of, oh, you should be succeeding. Oh, you should be doing this. But they don't think of how you're doing and how you're doing mentally. They just want you to do better. And I feel like I could, in some way, some form, create a way for them to get this support without them feeling alone, feeling isolated, feeling like they have failed them, and yeah, that they're not alone.
Thank you. Trustee Alto.
How do you envision advocating for equity, diversity, and inclusion in our county's education system? And what steps would you take to ensure all students have equal access to opportunities and resources?
I envision advocating for equity, diversity, and inclusion in our county by providing, through means of such forms as Google Classroom, creating a Google Classroom for these people to voice their opinions. I want to be able to keep them updated on decisions being made, as I don't think they're aware of these decisions. So being able to keep them updated, making ways for them to give feedback to me on how I could voice their opinions. And a way that I would like to get equal access and opportunities and resources is just voicing these opportunities and resources. Many kids don't know the resources and opportunities that they have, as I feel like it's not so much as it's like put underneath, but it's more so it's not said enough, and they don't see these opportunities and resources. And I feel like a lot of kids also don't have I feel transportation is a very big thing. A lot of off campus things. They can't get there. Either their parents are busy, they don't have a means of transportation, or it's just really far for them. And I feel like providing these transportations, providing ways for them to be able to get to these opportunities, be able to get these resources is something that I would like to push forward.
Thank you. Trustee Sanchez.
How would you gather input and feedback from your fellow students to ensure their voices are represented on the board?
So as I said in response 3, I want to create a Google Classroom that's so much just for the county, for me to keep them updated, let them know decisions that are being made. This way they know they have a way to be able to get these decisions and be able to give me feedback, whether it be creating Google Forms or just creating some way to give me feedback on ways that I could voice what they want, what they need.
Thank you. And question 5, can you share an example of a challenging situation you faced in a leadership role and how you handled it?
I think very recently, last year, I was secretary for a club, and no one was able to do anything no one was voicing what wanted to be done for the club. And I felt I had to take a step forward in being able to gather people from the club and get them to do what needs to be done for the club, whether it be a club carnival or whatever, being able to get funds for the club because no one wanted to, our president wasn't doing it. So being able to just step in as someone from the club and be able to get a way for these people, or not these people, for us to be able to get funds for the club, for us to push forward as a club.
Thank you. So Oscar, we're done with our questions for you. Does
Okay.
any trustee have any follow-up clarification questions or anything? Okay, thank you. So we will make our decision this afternoon, so I hope you'll hang around. That pretty much concludes your interview at this stage.
Okay.
So thank you again for being interested and presenting yourself well.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And the final applicant is William Rodriguez. Welcome. Thank you
Hey.
for your interest. So we have some questions to ask of you, and we're just going to rotate around the dais here asking them. So thank you for coming today. Trustee Nichols.
Please tell us why you're interested in serving as a student trustee on the County Board of Education.
Hello. I am interested in serving in the board as a student trustee. It sparked my interest while I was in the summer program, where I think I had seen Bruce Van Allen and Dr. Sabah, and where they just talked about the Brown Act, the policies and the regulations that happens within the like the school board. And I guess that just sparked my interest, wanting to know more about what happens within the inside between the members and the board. Just having like a voice to speak on behalf of students is what sparked my interest, I believe.
Thank you. Trustee Alto.
Please briefly describe your background and experience in education and student advocacy. Can you provide an example of a specific initiative or project you would like to work on as a student trustee and why it is important to you?
A brief description about my background, I'd say being a club member for the Interact Club, where we would volunteer for local communities, and just being a club member, we would help out the school as well, being what's it called? Like we would just help out around the school, like the ASB leadership program. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about it yet. We would just help around school, do school spirit, and a project that I would like to work on being a member of the board would be, I guess, there are many topics we could talk about, but one of them specifically, I would say advocating for the lack of teachers that there are in some schools. I know personally from where the Pajaro Valley district, there's a lack of teachers between the schools, and like being firsthand, having a substitute teacher my whole sophomore year was just not it. You don't really get to learn as fast as other students. So I guess I would want to talk about that in between the board.
Thank you. Trustee Sanchez.
How do you envision advocating for equity, diversity, and inclusion in our county's education system? And what steps would you take to ensure all students have equal access to opportunities and resources?
How I envision having equity between all schools is having fair policies to all students, being able to have the right to each of their own, such as, I guess an example would be school buses. Everybody has the right to apply to school buses and have a right to school. So everybody has the right to school, I guess, in a way. I would also say like having like, what's it called? A way we could ensure that all students have equal access is, I was thinking about like emails. So we email each student updating them about what happens within the community and between the board, just updating them with regular emails about what's happening, when it's happening. Because I know some kids don't even know what this like this area is at, or there even is a Santa Cruz Board of Education. So I guess just advocating it more and being able to help out kids to learn more about what goes on around here. And I guess just in a way having like emails or like a Google Classroom between each schools, because I know Google Classroom is like a big thing. So I would say like that's a big way we could advocate for it.
Thank you. And can you share an example of a challenging situation you faced in a leadership role and how you handled it?
I would say being a volunteer member for my high school at science camp, being a leader for the little kids, I guess in a way, we had this problem with our heater condition throughout the night. And well, there was no teacher around at the time and I couldn't just leave the kids alone. So I made all the kids, because they were all complaining and like, oh, it's hot in here. I think it reached up to like 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was like, the kids were all sweating. So I guess in a way, I just told them, because they were freaking out. So I was just like, it's okay. We all got in a group. We got in a line. I told them, get in a line. I opened the door and windows to get fresh air. And then in a way, they calmed down a bit with the fresh air. And then they just couldn't sleep all night. So at the end in the morning, they were not it. They were all grumpy. I just wasn't. I was trying to be calm with them. I played little games with them. I was just trying to keep them all calm, just so they wouldn't like freak out. But in the morning, first thing I did was definitely report to the higher ups and just told them what happened, and then they handled the situation, and we got a little bit of free time to sleep in the daytime. So yeah.
Oh, did I miss a question?
I think so. Number 4.
Number 4.
All right, do you want to ask it or shall I?
I'll ask it.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm sorry.
It's an easy question to read. How would you gather input and feedback from your fellow students to ensure their voices are represented on the board?
How would I gather feedback? I guess in a way, what I've done in my past clubs was do Google Forms. So we would have Google Classrooms, and I also talked with the principal to advocate for my club. And what I would do is reach out to the principal and tell him to email all students in the school to advocate for the club to come and join our club. So I guess I would contact the principal or whoever's in charge to send out emails and fill out Google Forms so they can be informed of what's going on. That's what I've done in the past with my clubs, at least, so they can be informed of the club that's going to happen, where and when, what it's about, just little information. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any follow-up clarification questions? Okay. William, we're going to decide today, so hang around. And I really appreciate your interest in coming forward today, and thank you for your answers.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Now, board and superintendent, we're in a public meeting, so everything we say is public record. But now is the time for us to discuss. And were we going to discuss with the students not present? Was that our idea? They're going to stay out.
I believe so. I believe that's what the.
Yeah. So trustees, you've had a chance to hear from the 5 applicants and record your sentiments or your feelings about them. And so we are not strictly required to do this by arithmetic, but we are interested in everyone's assessment. I don't want to force anybody to speak up, but let me start down there with Sandra. Do you have any opinions? And you don't have to say right away if you don't want to. I'll just
say what my preference is, what my number, like the person who got the high number here.
If you care to share it.
Yes, Neely Pfeiffer. I think she was very articulate. She handled herself as if she was a pro at talking in public and being interviewed. And I thought her answers were very complete and I was especially. Are we going to be able to do a student trustee and a alternate?
Well, we are not limited to a single trustee.
Mhm.
So I could imagine having an alternate, although we don't have nothing in the bylaws about it at the moment.
I believe our hope was to have one trustee from kind of the general school districts and another trustee that would be from our alternative education programs. So that is our hope.
Okay, I have a little addendum.
Go ahead.
So I also appreciated that Nathan Perry gave really good examples of his role in leadership at his school. I don't have it written down what school he attends. I don't recall that, but
SoCal.
okay. And so he's the one that was elected to several or many positions in student government. And I think that shows a really strong school that he's, he reaches out to the other students, I'm sure, and that he has a good style of speaking, and he seems to have a lot of confidence in himself. And I thought his role in student government was extensive. And he had good answers.
Okay, so, okay.
I thought they were all fine candidates. I could work with any of these 5 students.
Yeah. Alyssa?
So first, I want to say the same thing. I think it's like I can't even really score it. And I appreciate your comment about not going strictly on arithmetic, because I think that when we stick to scoring students based on the quality of their answers, that's not always the most equitable way to decide who fits our board best. I think that we are presented with really lucky to have such different kinds of students who come from so many different backgrounds. And so for me, what I was struggling with is the difference between like a polished answer versus what aligns with our board initiatives and what aligns with what we're seeking from our student voices. So in that regard, I am very impressed with Oscar. I found his answers to be very passionate, very genuine, very real. I think that this could be a really interesting opportunity to have representation from a part of the county that maybe we don't always have as much representation from. I think that that's something I'm thinking a lot about, is the equity within the preparation and the answers and the access to the opportunities on campuses already. So that's kind of my thoughts right now.
Thank you. Cool.
I don't know how we are going to make a decision. Just because, again, I think we all agree, we've all said how we can work with each and every single one of these students. I think they all can bring something unique, something different to the table. So it's really challenging to say or to just choose one single student. Laurel, I like Laurel. I can tell from her response, what I got from her was preparation. She's definitely put the initiative, she put the effort to prepare to come to this interview through to this process. Neely is definitely a leader, will definitely be successful in whatever Neely decides to do. She just commands attention and is very passionate. I could definitely see that. Nathan, I really like the fact that Nathan looks like he's well respected and admired at his school. He definitely has the student voice, the trust from his students, and his positions and his leadership shows that. Oscar, I definitely enjoyed listening to him. It almost didn't really feel like an interview. It almost felt like a really genuine, I could sense, the vulnerability in his answers and his responses, which I really enjoyed. And then William, I mean, he was very relaxed and made us all laugh, and definitely enjoyed that experience as well. So I could definitely see how each and every single one can contribute, can be successful in this position. So because I have to choose, I will share my top two, which would be Oscar and Nathan.
I'm sorry, Oscar and
Nathan.
Nathan, okay. They were all fabulous. I think for me, I appreciated Neely's self-assurance and polish, and clearly a lot of experience already in doing public things or doing presentations and things like that. The two that drew me the most, though, were Laurel and Oscar. Laurel, I saw a little bit of during the Student Trustee Academy, and is someone who is going through a lot of growth right now and coming out of her shell, their shell. I'm impressed with what they said today and what their interest is. With Oscar, I would say the same thing that Abel said, that he was very present. And in fact, that's part of why I lost track of what, because I was so tuned into him, just connecting as a human. And that's important to me. It's an important aspect. Again, not as polished maybe, but I don't think that's necessarily what we are trying to get here as a polished person. I think what we want is someone who can really represent students and connect, and who cares about what we're up to. So I guess if I had to choose between the two of them, I would go for Laurel, but I'm open. But those two, but they were all good. Andres, you're going to decide for us. No. Sorry. So I'm looking for a suggestion of a way to organize our relative preferences, or someone to make a motion, and we'll see if a motion gets a second and then passes, and if necessary, we'll have more motions. We have to. But if there's an idea for how we might consider coming to a conclusion, Alyssa.
Does it make sense for us to put as challenging as it is, put like voice maybe who our top is and then narrow it down from there? Does that feel like a way to go? Or do you think like making a motion and voting on it feels stronger?
I actually like the first idea that,
Okay.
we like, if each of us could just ponder for a minute and write down, if we had to choose one, which would it be? And then we'll see what happens. And again, we're not stuck with anything until we all come to agreement. So is that okay with everybody? Okay.
Sorry, I missed.
Okay.
So are you asking us to come
To list to one.
say what your favorite is?
Yes, and if everybody's ready, then we'll do it. But again, we're not bound because we may not have a conclusion yet. So, Trustee Nichols.
Okay, I'm on the Nathan team. Should I expand on that?
Let's just get our sense of the board at first,
Okay.
and then if we need to talk more, we'll talk.
I think I would go with Oscar.
Oscar.
Oh. Well, I have to say, I'm going to go with Laurel to start. So we have Laurel with one, Nathan with one, and Oscar with two. Or did I miss somebody? So, because that's all who's voting, is just the four of us, yeah.
Abel, were you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, did you?
I mentioned Oscar.
Okay,
Again, if somebody made a motion, we will try and see where we are with it. And that's one way to test if we're getting anywhere.
I would like to make a motion to
Point.
appoint Oscar as a student trustee to our County Board of Education.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. So we should do this with the roll call vote, I believe. And again, this is a straw vote. This is not our final vote unless we decide it is, but we will vote first and then see if we're sufficiently in agreement.
So why are we making a motion?
I'm sorry.
So we're making a motion, but it's not final? Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
actually, what I had been picturing was that I guess if a motion passes, then it's the real thing. Okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking we were still testing ourselves, but if we're ready to make motions, then we'll just do it. So call the roll, please.
And then to clarify, President Van Allen, this motion will go to item 7.4, resolution 2328.
We'll move on to that if we made this,
After this motion?
if this motion is, yeah. Is that the right way to do it?
I would recommend a straw vote, which would not
Binding.
a binding, just a straw vote and saying how many people would agree. You could have them raise their hand and then you could decide if you want to move forward to the next because right now we're on 7.3, item 7.3, and then you would decide to go to 7.4 where you would ask for a motion.
Good, okay. So this first thing is a straw vote and just to see if we're ready to move on. Make the actual resolution. Okay.
And so if
So
I
for a
could
straw
just
vote,
ask,
we don't
the-
have to-
if
we
I,
don't-
and
we
I
don't have-
apologize for this, if you could withdraw your motion just to make it, that makes it, thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Dr. Spa. So I would like a pseudo motion for a straw vote. Yes.
I'd like to make a pseudo motion to appoint Oscar to the County Board of Education as a student trustee.
Is there a second to the pseudo motion?
I'm sorry, and I'm sorry.
Should I do
apologize.
that? I'm
So yeah,
making up.
it confuses things. So it's not a motion.
Okay.
Let's not use the word
I'd like
motion.
to make a
So
straw
it's just a
vote.
simple question. Who would support,
Okay.
you know?
Okay. Okay, so trustees, we have an advocate for Oscar Alvarez. And one other member has spoken up in favor of that person. How does everybody else feel?
I want to remind the group that Nathan Perry said some things that made me feel that he was really into being a student trustee. And some of the words that I hope I wrote down correctly was that he had a passion for student advocacy. I think that expresses what he has been feeling all along in his ability to be elected in student government roles means your fellow students accept you and embrace your leadership roles. So I think that's a really important thing that he talked about. And then he had done things like participating in the mock trial, and I thought he spoke well and had a good answers.
Thanks. Other trustee thoughts or comments or suggestions? It's worth mentioning that if we move to the next item, it's a vote on a resolution, and it doesn't have to be unanimous. I just want to mention that, although I would love it if it were. Especially since we're missing, you know, are we at an impasse? think I just promised all 5 of them that we would decide today.
We do we do move to our second is, and then based off of that, maybe get do a little bit more, have a little bit more of a like data to kind of support what we as a group
Do a second
fall
round.
behind of.
Is that what you mean?
Not only who our first is, but our second, and then kind of do as a combination of those two.
You mean today or at a
Yeah,
future?
right now. Mhm. Right? Does that make sense?
So one, if you do want to make kind of a numeric, because sometimes it's difficult when you're, like with HR decisions, the numbers sometimes help bring clarity. And, that's why we, the idea was to give points, even though that does make it a little more awkward. But another way of getting numbers is to do, let's say, a first and a second, as you're describing. You could then give 2 points for the person who's in first place and 1 point to the person who's in second place, and then add up the numbers to see who has the most points. That's one way that we've done it in HR.
Would that be okay with the board? Again, we're testing what our sentiments are. Okay, so 2 points for your top choice, 1 point for your second choice.
Do you want us to go in order? Or can we share out when we?
I'll start this time. So Laurel is 2 points for me. Oscar is 1 point.
I would do Oscar is 2 for me, and Nathan is 1.
I would do Oscar is 2, Laurel is 1.
I have Nathan in first choice, and that's 2 points then for Nathan, and Neely with 1 point.
Okay, so I get 3 for Laurel. 1, 2, 2. Yeah, I get 3 for Laurel, 1 for Neely, 3 for Nathan, and 5 for Oscar. We're leaning slightly towards Oscar. If we move on to the next motion, the next item, then there will be a motion and we will vote if whether we, like I said, it doesn't have to be unanimous. Are we ready for that? Again, any further considerations or comments? And, I actually also, neglected another thing, which was to ask for public comment. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on our applicants? Seeing none, okay, sorry. Didn't help us out.
Would you review the totals
Yes.
in that last input session?
Yeah, Laurel had 3, Oscar had 5, Nathan had 3, and Neely had 1. I think we may just have to move on and try a motion and see who wins. Is everybody okay with that? Sandra, you're pondering?
Okay, I wrote down that all 5 trust 1, 2, 3, 4. On the 4 of us, I have 5 people voting for Oscar. I guess that was wrong.
No, it's points. It's, some
Points,
people got
okay.
2.
5 points, okay. And I didn't have anything else to say.
Okay. Well, at the risk of not being sure of the outcome, which is always fun. I'm going to move us on to item 7.3. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Item 7.4, which is resolution 23-28, appointment to fill a student trustee vacancy on the County Board of Education. And so I'd like to ask for a motion.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Oscar as a student trustee to our Board of Education.
Motion to appoint Oscar Alvarez.
And I'll second.
Second, so motion by Alto, second by Sanchez, and like a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Trustee Alto,
Yes.
trustee Nichols,
Yes.
trustee Roth. My apologies, abstaining from the vote.
Abstain.
Trustee Sanchez,
Yes.
President Van Allen.
Aye.
Resolution
carries.
passes.
Okay. We did it.
I really wanted to know what you thought.
We're going to choose a second candidate now. No. Yes.
No, because we want a second one from one of our own schools. So we're continuing to recruit for
It'll be a
that.
separate process.
Okay, so yeah, we can invite them all back in and we'll announce it.
Perhaps before announcing, we could give them all gratitude for
Students, this was one of the hardest decisions this board has ever made. And so the first thing I want to say is thank you so much. We're just incredibly impressed with all of you. And I think our board would just like to give you some applause. After quite a bit of argumentation and deliberation, the county board has unanimously decided to appoint Oscar Alvarez as our student trustee for this year. You're stuck with us now. If we could have appointed 5, we would have appointed 5. Once again, thank you so much. And also I want to shout out to Andres, who has been helping with you all, and appreciate all the support that we will keep trying to do better on, but we already try to do fairly well in supporting our students. So thank you again. Board trustees, any comments before the students leave? Anybody want to say anything?
Well, I'll say that I was impressed with all of you, and that I'd be willing to have you on the team if you'd all been able to win.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate that too. Like every single one of you, I just only have amazing things to say about all of you. I was so impressed with every single one of your answers and your passion and your drive, and you're all going to do such amazing things. So just thank you for being here.
Yeah, no doubt that you will all go to be very successful. And I look forward to hearing of all of your accomplishments in your future.
So Oscar, we will have you here at our October meeting to be sworn in officially and join our board, and the staff here will be in touch with you to work all the details out about that. So, this was hard. Thank you again so much. And look forward to having you up here with us.
And even though I couldn't vote or anything like that, I just hope that you all continue to look towards public service. I think you all have something to give, and we need exactly what you are offering.
We have one more little thing, which I'm not sure if it's a perk for you or for us, but we'd like to take your picture if you care to all stand up here and join us. And
all students to please join us.
All 5 of us. I think we'll stay here. They could just kind of line up here and
Can I do that? Do I get ghosted for being?
And before and after.
trustees, we are now at item 7.5. You're right. Which is about filling the trustee area 4 vacancy on this board. Yeah. We have an applicant and it would be the time to interview our applicant. We, in the committee that did the work preparing for this, we had to acknowledge that we are not obliged to make or to appoint someone today. We could have a little more time if we wanted to extend the application period and still make an appointment, or we could call an election for next year sometime. I'm saying that only out of thoroughness. So, so staff has been good enough to provide me with a script for this since I've never done it before. I'm going to describe the process and then we will move along. A vacancy exists on the Santa Cruz County Board of Education for trustee area 4. Staff worked diligently to share the notice and spoke with many interested individuals. For various reasons, only one has submitted an application. If agreed upon, the board may ask staff to continue recruiting. Our requirement is to fill this vacancy by October 30th of this year. I will now establish the interview process for the current applicant. The board has 6 questions that will be asked of the candidate. Each trustee will read one of the questions to the candidate. The candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. If there is time, trustees may ask additional questions to the candidate. After all of the questions have been asked and answered, I will open the floor for public comment. Now, if I remember that, this will be the opportunity for the public to address the board regarding the applicant. Each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes unless otherwise limited. The board will then deliberate in open session. I will ask for a motion to select the candidate to become the new trustee for area 4. We will have a roll call vote on the candidate named in the motion. So now is the time for our interview, and this is, we are now at item 7.6, and our applicant is Edward Estrada, and Edward, would like to join us up here. Welcome. And good. All right, good. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for your interest. We have, trustees, you have your questions ready for the trustee, and I'll start at this end and we'll go this way. down the questions. And in this, Sue can participate in this because Sue will be here for the whole. Okay, so, but just to start it off, I'll ask the first question. What do you see as the basic purpose of public schools? And what is the role of the County Board of Education in the fulfillment of that purpose?
Yeah, I believe that the basic purpose of public schools is to provide a quality education to all students, regardless of their background, income, socioeconomic status, or their personal circumstances. I'm the product of public schools myself, and it has been really transformative for me, having an environment that is so welcoming and supportive, that allowed me to find my own passion through my GSA when I was in high school. I was really going down the wrong path when I was a freshman, and finding that purpose and advocacy is what helped me through it all, my personal circumstances and everything like that, you know, every student is facing. And so finding that purpose and, you know, really educating in such a welcoming and open environment is something that's really important to me and something that I want to continue preserving in, you know, this county, in the state. I know that our country is seeing a lot of attacks on boards that, you know, are really hurtful for a lot of communities. And so I want to be there to support students to the best of my ability. And so the second part of the question was the purpose of the board in
The role of the board, yeah.
role of the board, yes. So the County Board of Education has a really important role in alternative education. So that's something that is something really important to me. In my day-to-day work, I work as a housing navigator for homeless veterans. And I know how much, you know, education is really important in providing a foundation for, you know, a quality and successful life. And I love the alternative programs that also provide, continue to provide that, you know, for folks who, you know, may have had a lapse in their education when they were younger, and trying to actually go back and finish their education is really important. And so that's something I see quite often. And developing those relationships and these services is super important in making sure that we have a quality, you know, society, and that folks are well supported.
Thank you. Sue, next question.
What would you like to accomplish as a board member? Which of those accomplishments would be your highest priority?
I think that the board has been doing amazing work. A lot of the initiatives that have been, you know, implemented are very important. ESL programs, making sure, you know, that our multilingual communities are well supported is super important. You know, we don't want folks to, you know, fall behind, especially because of the pandemic. Having a good rebound from the pandemic in education, I want to make sure that folks aren't left behind and that the rebound is equitable across all of our communities. And like I said before, making sure that our schools do have a welcoming and open environment is super, super important. That's what allowed me to have the comfort and courage to finish school, like I said, come up here for UCSC, and now have, you know, a wonderful career that I love. So thank you, public education. Thank you to the board for everything that you've done so far. And also supporting Dr. Sabah and the important work that the superintendent does is also a really important factor. And also listening to the community, being a community voice, attending local school board meetings. That's something that I want to continue. I want to do to make sure that there's an ongoing conversation, and that I keep an open mind and an open door, you know, open email kind of policy where I'm really listening with an open heart, open mind.
Thank you. Trustee Sanchez, question 3.
Welcome. Describe your response to a parent or friend demanding you take a particular stance on a hot button issue.
Fun. I'll take the concerns of the community very seriously. But I absolutely, won't promise anyone to vote any particular way unless that's how I fully feel. That's just not open and transparent and ethical. So I want to, make sure that the process is as open as possible and that I do go in with an open heart, open mind, but also that, I stick to the student needs, community needs, staff recommendations, laws, and my own personal values and beliefs. So all of that, like it says in a future question, all of that is really important to be taken holistically together. And so if I am going a certain way, I can absolutely tell them that, but I'm gonna maintain an open mind and not promise anything to anyone in particular.
Thank you. Trustee Alto, question 4.
Describe how you would balance the following when deciding how to vote on a matter before the board: community concerns, student needs, state and federal law, staff recommendations, and your personal values and beliefs.
Yes. So when it comes to votes, I'll always listen to all sides of the issue. First and foremost, I want to put the student needs first because that's what we're here to do. We're here to make sure that the students are well supported. But with that, in support of that, you also have to listen to other things and follow other things like the laws, because I don't want our financial solvency to be, affected, impacted, or threatened in any way. Because that's doing a disservice to our community and to our students. So, and with that, listening to staff recommendations, fully understanding and asking questions about what are the implications of any certain vote, so that we make sure that we're doing the right choice by our students and by our community. And like I just said, community as well, listening to parents, listening to the community, folks who also don't have kids right now, but might want to have kids in the future, making sure that we're creating an environment that is open and welcoming for, if or when they want to have children, and that we build a system that is really supportive, equitable, and supportive to all of our students.
Thank you. Trustee Nichols.
Question number 5.
Yes.
As a board member, how would you ensure you stay up to date on issues affecting the district, county office specifically, or public K through 12 education generally?
Yes, so for statewide issues or issues affecting the Board of Trustees, I want to follow, guidance from the California School Board Association and the California County Boards of Education, just to maintain good knowledge on statewide issues and the board's roles and other counties that are doing really important transformative work that we could possibly implement here. To stay up to date on local issues, I'll regularly attend local school district meetings. I want to build good relationships with school boards to create a trust, continued trust going with them, where they can bring issues that we might be able to solve to our attention. And I also want to stay up to date on local news. I can absolutely do a Google, alert where every time something that mentions Santa Cruz schools is published, I get a notification. That's something that I can also do to maintain up-to-date information on what's affecting schools locally.
Thank you. I think you got a copy of our trustee handbook.
Yes.
So after reviewing that, how will you balance your personal time and commitments, including board meetings, individual growth activities, and social events if you are appointed to serve on the board?
Serving as a county board trustee is an honor and, something that I would really value and take seriously. So I will, I'll prioritize public service whenever possible. And if urgent, unforeseen circumstances come up, I'll communicate that to the board president and to the superintendent as well far in advance as I can to request accommodations or, say that I can't make a meeting, but I promise that I can try as much as humanly possible to attend all board meetings and committee meetings as well.
Thank you. That concludes our questions, and if trustees have any clarification, follow-up questions, now would be the time.
If I could, President Van Allen, since we only have one board member, one applicant, you actually can have a more robust
Conversation.
interaction with the candidate, because it really is, there isn't a fairness issue here for other candidates. So you'd be able to ask more questions that are open.
So any questions from Trustee Alto?
First of all, thank you for all of your answers. I guess I've noticed you in the crowd, and so I just want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit more about what brought you to this. Like, why do you want to be on? Like, I know you've really answered that, but what parts of your life have made you want to serve in this kind of position?
Yeah, so I have served in previous leadership experience when I was in high school, and I really understand the importance of providing leadership opportunities and just a really good quality public education. People love to talk bad about public education, but when done right, it's absolutely transformational in an equitable environment. I've had people talk about me like, oh, this is someone who got out of their circumstances, who survived their circumstances, but I am who I am because of my circumstances. And because of the struggles that I've gone through and the perseverance that I have, gained, and the knowledge that I've gained through that. And so I want to continue down this path where I found my passion in public service and helping the community. That's really what helped me in high school, is finding a greater purpose, helping the community as much as possible. When I was in high school, I was doing a lot of LGBT activism, which is very relevant nowadays in the public education sphere. But I helped with the LGBT advisory committee for San Diego Unified School District as a student, and I helped provide educational resources to ensure compliance with the new statewide requirements on LGBT education and making sure that we include that in our education. So I have a lot of experience in the sphere in youth and school advocacy. And so it felt like a good fit when I heard that Rose was, leaving her position, and everything just kind of fell into place.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions or comments? Okay.
I'd just like to make a statement. We have formed, and it's been in existence maybe 12 years, the Santa Cruz County School Boards Association, where we come together. There's at least one or two representatives from each school district attends every other month. And it is a place where there is a lot of sharing about what is happening, and it's school board member to school board member. And so if you're interested and elected, I can see a perfect place for you.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Yes. So you mentioned in your candidate information sheet, San Diego Unified School District, San Diego Pride. Is that where you were born and raised?
Yes, I was born and raised in San Diego, Southeast San Diego, Paradise Hills to be exact. Go Padres. So I came up here when I graduated high school to attend UCSC. So that was a little over 5 years ago. Yeah.
You don't plan on moving within the next year or 6? 5?
No, the weather here is too nice. Everyone says San Diego's weather is the best, but Santa Cruz, I beg to differ, because it's amazing here, and I don't want to move anywhere where there's 100 degrees any time of the year. But yeah, I've been establishing myself here.
A couple of times we'll get it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unless trustees have any further questions, then I'll ask for any public comment.
just say that when I see that your occupation and employer is housing navigator at Housing Matters, that what you do with your life is important, and what you have chosen to work at. Will you be able to keep the commitment 4 o'clock third Thursday of every month, and your employer would not object to you coming to these meetings?
Yes, I mean, yeah, it's right down the street. But I work mostly remotely. Actually, I work a little bit about the job. I work to establish relationships with landlords and property management companies to secure placements for unhoused veterans in the community. And I also work with other social service organizations and, HUD-VASH, the Housing Authority, all of those things. But I get to work remotely with a flexible schedule. So I clocked in today at 7 something, and I got to get off early to come here. So that's something I can continue doing.
I commend you for having scored on such terrific work. We appreciate that.
I had one little minor thing, which was you mentioned about people pressuring you and that you wouldn't promise how you'll vote. Basically, don't ever promise how you'll vote. Just wait and vote when you vote. Don't say it beforehand. That's just in general, not even without pressure. So trustees, are we done with our interview of Edward? I think we are.
There was one public comment from Rose Felicetti. Who
Okay,
mentioned
public
that,
comment.
Thank you, Edward, and thank you, board and staff, for supporting students.
Good. That's from the person who you'd like to have be your predecessor.
Yes.
Okay, so trustees, we are actually now at the point of we've completed the interview, so we're at item 7.7. Yeah, okay. And which is the time for us to deliberate. It's a public meeting. So express yourselves.
Well, I'm really pleased that a candidate has come forward to help us fill the 7th seat. And I think you presented yourself as a very well-rounded person where you have interest in schools and interest in the homeless. And I'm really impressed. And you sit there at the chair and you answered our questions, and it seemed good. It seemed very, very good.
I agree. I feel like the passion's there, the commitment is there. I think there's a lot of initiatives and things that we do that align to your background and experiences. And I think our board could really use a lot of your input and from your own experiences, and even your job, I feel like aligns. And so I think it could be a really nice fit.
Agreed. I think that, yeah, nothing concerning, nothing that is alarming. If anything, it's the answers that we received. I think not only do we have someone who's passionate about public schools, but we have someone who's can fit in with like the vision and the mission of who we are and what we want to do as an organization.
I agree. And I believe you're looking forward, and that you mentioned students are passion, and they are what are taking us into the future. And I just appreciate that at your age, you are taking a stand on public education and want to do something like this. Thank you.
Well, I feel the same way as the others have said. And speaking of age, we are at a moment when the average age of this board is going to drop considerably with our 2 appointments, which is a good thing. So any other comments or questions before we move on to actually the item with the resolution? Staff comment? Not obliged, but no. Okay, then let's move to item 7.8, which is resolution 23-29, provisional appointment to fill a vacancy on the Santa Cruz County Board of Education. Trustees, we have an applicant, Edward Estrada, and we've interviewed them, and we are now ready to put their name on this resolution and consider adopting it. So I would like to hear a motion in which you say the person's name so that it adds to the resolution, the blank, fills in the blank.
I would make a motion to appoint him as trustee for Area 4.
Second.
Okay, motion by Nichols, second by Alto.
Can I just ask a question about which pronouns you prefer, Edward? Thank you. I asked Edward what pronouns, and Edward responded he, them.
Okay, we have a motion, and I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Alto?
Yes.
Trustee Nichols?
Yes.
Trustee Roth?
Yep.
Trustee Sanchez?
Yes.
President Van Allen?
Aye. Congratulations, Edward. You've been appointed, and again, the staff will work with you. We will officially swear you in at our October meeting,
Rose Road, I can retire happily.
yes. No problem. It just reminded me that it was an interesting roller coaster ride as we began getting expressions of interest and from people in this position, which has now been about 2 months since Rose began letting people know. And I am really happy where the roller coaster ended. So, Board, I think we are done with this process. Edward, you're welcome to stay if you want. We'll see you next time up here on the dais.
I'd like to give a round of applause for our new board member.
Okay, if I can find my agenda, we will be back on track. The next item, our staff has been waiting patiently. And this has to do with, this is item 7.9, a public hearing on the sufficiency of instructional materials. And Dr. John Rice, or maybe not doctor, I'm sorry, but John Rice, yeah. I think of you as so, you know.
Is the microphone on? Is the green button?
All right. No, I think this is fine. This is fine. But it just a great night, and just it reminds me how lucky and grateful I am to get to work for this organization. I don't get to bring anything quite as exciting as what we've seen so far, but I do think that I'm asking for a pretty straightforward item this afternoon. We're asking for you to adopt a resolution confirming sufficiency of texts and materials for core subjects in our alternative education programs. This is an annually required resolution, and I can assure you with confidence that we do indeed have sufficient materials. And here's a few ways that I've made sure of that. In May 2023, our teachers inventoried all of their texts before the school year ended. Over the summer, we made necessary purchases to account for any loss. And as school got underway again in August, we surveyed our teachers again. If anyone was short of anything, we located extras and redistributed things, materials as necessary. We've taken additional care to see that all of our students have access to technology inside and outside of the classroom. And we also have 3 curriculum-based initiatives this year that provide common materials across our sites and programs. One is our new integrated math adoption called Reveal and Alex. The second is Reading with Relevance. And the third is Bright Thinker. And since we're here talking about materials, I thought that I would just take a couple of minutes to share about each of them. And I'll start right here with Reveal and Alex. Our newest initiative is a common adoption of materials for math we went with Reveal from McGraw-Hill, which is a digital and text-based integrated approach to math that will ensure our students across all of our programs are able to access the same common standards-based material, and that they'll get it in a similar format than that they would have at a comprehensive school. But what's really great about this program is Alex. Alex is an individualized adaptable assessment and tutorial system that works individually with each student to ensure that they get sufficient practice and scaffolding to fill any gaps to make sure that they get to grade level and beyond. We can go to the next slide from there. I also just wanted to talk for just a moment to get to highlight our adopted English language arts program. It's called Reading with Relevance. And Reading with Relevance is a local evidence and standards-based literature program with social emotional learning components that guide students and educators through the process of reading culturally relevant, socially rich literature. The curriculum breaks high interest, diverse books into a series of thoughtful daily lesson plans that culminate in final writing products. Each lesson and unit is designed to support educators in exploring the social and emotional themes of the day's reading, inspiring students to read deeply, think critically, talk openly, and write reflectively about topics that matter. Thanks to the work from our own team in alternative education, Reading with Relevance courses for English language arts credit have been university A to G approved and can count toward university admission as well. Some of our common texts for the year are shown here. And yeah, we can go on to the next slide. The final adoption that I wanted to make sure I mentioned is Bright Thinker. Bright Thinker is an online platform that we're now using program-wide. It provides a comprehensive selection of middle and high school courses and materials for both classroom and individual use. These courses and materials can be customized and can be used synchronously, like a digital textbook, with a whole class, as well as asynchronously or individually for independent study. Most of the courses in Bright Thinker have also been A through G approved now. And with our district license, we're able to offer lots of electives, even some CTE opportunities that students wouldn't have access to otherwise. I just wanted to get to highlight these three things that we're bringing about to make sure that our students across the board are getting access to high quality materials and to demonstrate the commonalities that we're building across all of our school sites. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. It is a public hearing, so I'll ask if there is anyone from the public who wishes to comment. Being none, we'll bring it back to the board for deliberation. What's before us, this is the resolution 23-30, sufficiency of instructional materials, 7.10. Trustees, comments, questions, or motions?
Some books I want to read.
I always love the book list, yeah, actually.
Some of those that I put up there, please feel free to come over to our resource room. I'd be happy to supply you with a copy of any of those. The most recent book on there, you'll see is the aqua colored book. It's the most recent edition. It's called Accountable: The True Story of a Racist Social Media Account and the Teenagers Whose Lives It Changed. This is a true account of something that happened locally in the Bay Area in Albany School District recently in 2017. And it details in detail a particular situation that happened at the high school where some students had created a racist Instagram account. And you get to see what happens in a school district and a community around this account. You get to see things from the perspective of the the students who were victimized. You get to see what happens to the community as a whole. You get to see what happens to the students, the entire student body of the school, the staff, the administration, the school board. It's a comprehensive look that really provides an amazing lens, I thought, on systemic racism in our society and in our communities. And it's it's a great book, but also a roller coaster ride.
Thanks. Questions or comments or motions, trustees?
I'll motion to establish the sufficiency.
Point of order, did we actually do the public hearing where you opened the?
Well, I acknowledged it and I asked for public comment. I skirted
So
over
we should-
saying I officially closed the public hearing. So no,
Yeah.
I've done it now. I'm sorry. I'm distracted today. Okay, so we have a motion. This is resolution 23-30, sufficiency of instructional materials. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Roth, second by Nichols, and we need a roll call vote, please.
Oh, I'm having trouble with my mic. Trustee Alto,
Yes.
trustee Nichols,
Yes.
trustee Roth,
Yes.
trustee Sanchez,
Yes.
President Van Allen.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Trustees, we are now to the next resolution, which is, this is item 7.11, resolution 23-31, recognizing October as LGBTQ plus History Month. The resolution committee reviewed drafts, thanks to the staff helping assemble them. Chair Nichols, would you care to motivate this?
I would say that this is an important resolution. I believe we have made previous resolutions that are very similar. And I do appreciate the work of our administrators and staff over there who have prepared these. And they were sent out to the committee members. And I did get a response, and it was a majority vote on the committee to bring this to the board today.
Thanks.
There's so much in there. I'm not going to mention one thing there, but there's just so much in this particular resolution. There's a lot to say about LGBTQ plus people and their safety and sense of belonging.
Agreed. Other comments, board members?
I'll move to approve this.
Motion by Nichols. Second by Alto. And roll call vote, please.
Trustee Alto,
Yes.
trustee Nichols,
Yes.
trustee Roth,
Yes.
trustee Sanchez,
Yes.
President Van Allen.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously of all present. Thank you, John Rice. Okay, trustees, we are now, oh, I'm sorry. I thank you for the previous one. So thank you, board. Item 7.12, resolution 23-32, recognizing October 8th through 14th as the week of the school administrator, people we care a lot about here, up here. Again, do you care to introduce this?
I'll say that we recognize this is us recognizing the work of the administrator, and they get their own week. And of course, the schools couldn't run without administrators. And I think you have a skillful team that is being created all the time at this office. Yep.
Other comments? I wanted to relay, I'm helping the Scotts Valley School District has a parcel tax on the ballot coming up in October. And in their assessment of how to present it to the voters, the campaign committee felt they needed to include a line that says the funding will pay for teachers and programs, but not for administrators. And we debated that. Some of us did not like having to say that because it feeds the wrong picture. But politically, especially in Scotts Valley, the assessment was that it was necessary to say that for a certain segment of the voters who have this belief system that school administrators are somehow extra or unneeded or and so on. And it's so frustrating. I argued for a while that we shouldn't put that phrase in there, that bullet point, because it just reinforces the wrong picture. But the political assessment was made. So anyway, much to my regret.
It's a huge issue.
Oh, I totally. Yeah. So trustees, it's now time for a motion. This is on item 7.12, resolution 23-32, recognizing.
I'll make a motion to approve this resolution.
Motion by Nichols,
I'll second.
second by Sanchez. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Alta,
Yes.
trustee Nichols,
Yes.
trustee Roth,
Yes.
trustee Sanchez,
Yes.
President Van Allen.
Aye. And thank you to our administrators. We have a few present here and they're
And
much
Bruce,
appreciated.
I'd like to thank you for taking that argument. You don't live there, so you're not going to be firebombed or anything. But thank you for taking that position with them.
Low progress, maybe. Okay, trustees, we are now to item 8, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Sabah.
Thank you so much. We have just wanted to give you a few updates on some of the initiatives that we've been working on and that you've probably heard about in the past. The first one is you may have been seeing some information out in the newspaper, also on social media and in a variety of different contexts to promote attendance awareness. As you know, we have been struggling as a county, as many places have as well, with declining enrollments, where we're seeing large numbers of students that are not continuing to attend our schools and are not enrolling in our schools. Some of those districts, such as Pajaro Valley Unified School District, was seen a nearly 25% decrease over 5 years in enrollment. And we're seeing consistently across the whole county at least 2% decrease of enrollment. In addition to that, we're seeing large numbers of students who are missing a large portion of their school. Now, when those students miss 10% of their school, which is 2 days a month or a month of school at the end of the year, they fit the category of chronic absenteeism. And between 30 and 40% of our students in the county meet that criteria now. This is 3 times what it was prior to the pandemic, and it's related to the mental health challenges the students are facing and a variety of other, I think, issues that students are challenges that they're facing. So we've launched an effort within all the school districts to bring awareness about attendance, and also to provide some tools to schools to incentivize, improving attendance, to make posts on social media, to help the community know that even if you are struggling with, if children are struggling with mental health at school, it could very well be the very best place for them to get the support they need. And of course, we also have heard that at the same time, we don't want them coming to school if they're ill. But other than that, we really want them to be in school. And so as much as possible, I really want to commend Nick and the team and our communications department that have been really working on bringing these resources and made them available. We've also been working on another area that we'll be launching in sometime soon later this year, which is what we're calling a health summit. And this is an idea of listening to our healthcare providers about different priorities when it comes to the health and well-being of our students. We've already been working hard on mental health, and you've heard and seen presentations about that. We're also launching a tobacco use and vaping forum that is going to be, and also nutrition and fitness. We are seeing very high numbers of students who are not in a healthy weight. and are not eating healthy, they're not exercising. And so we're looking to work with our schools to look at what we could do with our curriculum, what can we do with activities, what could we do with our parent engagement efforts, what could we do with our food services and nutrition services at schools to help students feel, get healthier. And so that's something you'll be hearing more about, and we're really excited because it brings together all of these different intersections in our community, including our healthcare community, to work together to find ways. And so it may look something like, some of the campaigns you've seen in the past, like 5210 and other campaigns, but we think this is really important to now more than ever. In addition, we've shared with you that we've started a countywide school safety training to have a consistent protocol for how would we respond if an incident occurs. There is an active shooter situation or a fire, and we need to evacuate, that those protocols be consistent and they're trained across the county. And so we've been working with the sheriff department, all the law enforcement agencies in the county. All the school districts except PVUSD is still working on they have a different model. And so we're still working to figure out how to bridge their model with this countywide effort. And all the fire departments in the county. There's about 100 public schools in the county. And since we started this effort in August, we've trained 20% of our schools. We're hoping to train all 100 schools in this protocol by the end of the year. And we think it's going to bring a more consistent and more appropriate response. We'll have a better understanding of what law enforcement will do when they show up, what the fire department will do when they show up if there is an incident. And they'll also be familiar now with our protocol. So we'll be using the same language, the same vocabulary, the same signage at all the schools, which is something that we're really excited about. We're also, we got some of the model from Idaho. They have a statewide model, and that's where we got kind of the model that we've been using, the command response model. But we're planning on making our own videos, and Nick has taken that on as a project to film students and staff from our own schools, and we'll be using those videos as part of this training approach. You saw Andres Ortiz here, and he's been working hard on student leadership recruitment. He's been visiting schools, he's been tabling at different school events, putting up posters and streamlining a process for registering and recruiting students for our student leadership. I think we're having our first Student Leadership Alliance meeting this weekend, I believe. And we're excited about continuing to engage our student leaders in all the different groups, the Black Student Union, our Youth for Environmental Action, our Youth Artists Taking Action, Queer Youth Trans Council, and I believe, there's 6 groups. I should have written them down. We have a new group called the Multilingual Youth Taking Action group. I already said, Black Student Union. So lots of great things happening, and hopefully we'll be able to report to you. We're thinking that those students could come here and present at the end of the year projects that they're working on, activities that they're doing, and we could have a kind of a celebration of student leadership. We wanted to let you know that we are looking at some improvements to this building that will be coming back to you, because there'll be some some changes that are going to be taking place. So Leanne has been working with Richard Reed. One of the things is that some of our facilities are not compliant right now, and they need to be brought up to par and brought up to code. And so we are looking at making some changes to the parking lot area, the entrance, and as well as the lobby area over here. And so you'll be hearing more about that soon. And I think it'll be a welcome refresh to our facilities here and get us in compliance, but also looking at things like chargers for electric vehicles to help encourage people to acquire electrical vehicles since they have a smaller carbon footprint. Some wonderful news. You may have read in the newspaper that Mary Forcer, who's a long-term friend of the COE and has been an administrator for a long time. I've known her for probably almost 25 years. was selected as a local hero of the year and this was in the Sentinel. So we're really excited about that. Many of you probably know Mary, and she continues to work with us as a coach for our administrators, and just a wonderful person who provides a lot of support to our community. So really excited about that. And I also want to share with you that the Diversity Center selected the County Office of Education as the local organization of the year for our support of our LGBTQ community. And we have a great partnership with the Diversity Center and the Safe Schools Initiative. And it is a huge honor coming from them because they do amazing work. And so we hope you can make it to the gala. You've received invitations from Berenice, and hopefully you could be there because it's you're going to be honored as part of our local organization of the year. So October 21st. Anything, do you want to say anything about Mary being selected?
Well, I was just, I mean, I don't know her super well, but I've definitely known of her for a long time, and along with her partner Les, and they're just incredible contributors to the education world. Lucky to have them.
So is she also known as Mary?
Gowder.
Oh, Gockel, Mary Gockel Forrester. Thank you. Yes, her maiden name is Gockel.
I had one question, talking about the absenteeism that you were
Yes,
addressing.
chronic
earlier.
absenteeism, yes.
So is anybody right now trying to find out where those absent students are? Are they sitting at home reading comic books? Are they surfing? Are they, what do we know?
Well, that's a great question. So there's two questions, if you will. There's students who are no longer enrolled in our schools. So one question that we often get is, where did they go? Which is the declining enrollment, right? Where did the 25% of the PVUSD students go? Are they not enrolled in school? Are they enrolled in a different school outside of our area? All the districts saw declines this year, except for Santa Cruz City Schools. They saw a small increase, but they basically stayed pretty much flat. So that's one question, and we are looking at that. We're looking at CalPads and seeing where students are enrolled, and if they enrolled, all the ones that are no longer enrolled in our schools that were enrolled last year, and seeing if they were enrolled somewhere else.
They have a number, right?
Correct. They have a student ID, a SSID, a 10-digit number that follows them in California. And so we're looking at that. The problem is it has to be done manually because there's no way of doing it that we know of, because CalPads is not a robust system. The second question is for attendance, students missing. Generally speaking, they're staying home because they miss a day, then they come 4 days and they miss, right? So they're in some cases, parents call the students are, it's excuse absence or not. There's a double impact for us. One is students miss out on their education and the supports that they get in school. And two, this affects our funding that allows us to get the supports funded for those students. And so there's a cyclical process where the more students miss school, the less we're able to support them, and possibly it's going to make it harder for them to come to school. And so we want to try to break that cycle and let everybody know, including students, that we want them in our school. We want their experience to be exciting, and we want them to feel safe, and that they could bring their whole selves to school, and that they are that school is the best place for them, and get our community on board.
Is there, there's a system where they can, if they're gone 4 days, they can ask the district for
Independent studies. Yeah.
Independent study, and then it does count.
Correct. So if they
Still, the student is not.
One of the reasons that some students are missing is that in some cases they go on vacation. And so when they miss school, in that case, we encourage, if parents know that students are going to miss school for any reason, we encourage them to let us know. And most districts are working to develop independent study options, short-term independent study options. So you're going to be gone for a week. Here's a packet, or here's a project for you to complete. If you turn this in, you'll get credit and we'll get attendance because you're completing a week's worth of work. And so that's something that most of the districts are working to develop. The larger districts for sure, and the smaller districts are wanting to do that as well, in a way for students to get more activities in place, but also for them to recoup the loss.
I think it's kind of hard on the teachers.
It is. It is. That is one of the challenges. Yes.
I just want us to keep our eye on the ball of if someone is not motivated to do something, and so then they're not contacting the schools in this case, it's very hard for us to then contact them and remotivate them. And the concern I have in that context is of thinking that we know why they're not there and acting on that idea as opposed to really digging in with the students, finding out what's going on, which I know would be very hard to do, very expensive to do, because you'd have to somehow find a way to talk to a bunch of people that you can't find in a kind of order that you have to search for. Yeah. So, but we should find ways to keep hearing from the students.
Able policy person for CCBE this past year, you stated that we are trying to focus on enrollment versus ADA. And because even when the students are not in the classroom, we still have the same expenses to meet. What is the thinking on absences when it's enrollment? Has it gone that far, or?
So there's definitely a difference between enrollment and absences. I was actually reading an article that I think enrollment went up in PUSD or went higher than what they were requesting.
It was a misunderstanding. It was a misinterpretation of the data. They had a dramatic drop.
But there is, we definitely live in different times now. Like there definitely isn't a stigma for not going to school, right? Like growing up, you had to go to school. And since, 2020, we feel a lot more comfortable not going to school if we don't feel well. And that's not only school, but like work as well. And that's something that parents are struggling with as well. Like they don't want to go back to the office. They want to work remotely. So that is so there isn't that stigma, right? Of you have to go to school every single day, like there was prior to 2020. And so the thinking is like was mentioned, was the fact that we get, whether a student shows up or not, this district still has expenses, right? They still have to hire teachers. They still have to care and upkeep for the schools. So kind of changing that model from ADA, instead of ADA, to enrollment. And so that way it's a little bit more consistent, specifically for us in the COEs, just because we do, I guess, because of our nature of our program, it does already tend to fluctuate. But more so now. And I feel like this is an initiative that's getting support, not only through the COEs, but also local school districts as well. So there's definitely that momentum there to really push and advocate for that this year.
So your report?
Yeah, just wanted to finish with some exciting opportunities for you to participate in from right now, competing with this meeting. We have a wonderful presenter, Doug Fisher, who is presenting a leadership credibility. And so we have lots of administrators participating and other staff participating in that session. There's a coastal cleanup day. Cypress High School, we are working hard to get people excited about coming to Cypress High. And so we're getting the word out on social media and other places about all the wonderful things that Cypress High School has to offer. And so there's a student showcase occurring at the end of the month. Also, we're going to be participating, supporting, and also, co-funding the Fall 2023 Queer, Trans, and Allied Student Summit of the Central Coast, which is a wonderful event that is student organized, and just it's going to be great. We're also, if you remember, starting 2 robotics clubs, one in Watsonville, one in Santa Cruz. I'm really excited about the Watsonville one. It's mostly alt-ed students and a lot of young women who are participating in that. I think it's going to be really awesome. And so it's part of our computer science and robotics initiative. And then on October 7th, right here, we're going to have a Prop 28 convening to, because Prop 28 is that art funding that is coming in. And so we're going to have a convening to talk about all the wonderful things Prop 28 could represent for us. And we're also participating and supporting the PVUSD Parent Conference on October 14th. I did want to say that, when thinking about our Queer, Trans, and Allied Student Summit, one of the things that you've been hearing about is about some kind of a conservative movement to challenge some of the work and the progress that we made on behalf of our LGBTQ plus community. And so I think that we should anticipate, prepare, think about, and what that could mean with people challenging. We're seeing challenges for the raising of pride flags. We're seeing challenges for the use of pronouns. The challenges, there's a couple of bills that are going to protect the privacy of students when it comes to their identities in school. And I think we could very well see some of that advocacy to roll back some of the progress that has been made here in this forum here and in our schools. And we're already seeing that on social media and some activism that's taking place. And so I think, as we think about our role and where we stand when it comes to creating those safe spaces for our students, I think we may be in a position to be able to continue to stand up and voice our support, both in policy and resources and in action on behalf of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think all board members all agree. Trustees, it's now time for our reports. Some of us went to the CCBE conference and could probably talk a long time about how great it was and all the information that we got. And I'm a little concerned about that. So I'm just going to say two really brief things. One is that people were stoked about the legislation that finally got in place to send more money to COEs for their court and community schools. So that was like one of the big applause lines of the whole conference, was everybody being quite happy about that. I did one workshop where there was a very fascinating presentation by a group that has set up a program with a college and their high schools to train people that want to become teachers, including existing current classified staff. And they have now a 2-year apprenticeship program in which you get your credential without leaving your job as a classified worker, but you get additional training. And there's funding, and a very significant thing about the funding is that the U.S. Department of Labor has finally designated teaching as an apprenticeable profession, like construction workers or something like that. And which means that there is U.S. Department of Labor funding for apprenticeship programs for teachers now. And they were just beginning to go, wow, what is this going to mean for us? But they said it was very significant, potentially a lot of money. So we need, which I'm sure we will. Yeah. And then I went to several workshops on student mental health and social emotional well-being. And it was very gratifying to know that people all over the state on county boards are as concerned about this as we are, and they are. And they're deeply troubled by what they're finding with what's up with some of the students and what they're having to go through. So I think the priority in the state, at least at the level of county boards, is that the mental health awareness and the social emotional learning is just right at the center of what we're about. And that was good to hear. It didn't feel like we were sort of in a weird minority or something like that. So that's all I'm going to say. Oh, and I did some stuff, I went some committee stuff and everything. The usual. That's what I do.
The CCBE, County School Board. Anyway, this was the best.
So if you could just get a little closer.
I like to talk, but I guess I don't like microphones. Anyway, it was the best that I have seen in my years on this board. And what is special about it is the combination between the California School Board, CSBA, and CCBE, and the superintendents have really come together, and it's a focus on what our board does versus the local districts, which is a whole different animal. Same students are first, but it's a different animal. I attended the one on safety, and I brought some stuff for you all. And I heard from, let's see, it was Deneen Gus from Monterey, and the superintendent from San Mateo, which has had this program going for 10 years. We were presented 3 different types and at 3 different levels, 10 years, 5 years, or since COVID, which was Monterey, and then Santa Barbara, which is just getting started. And I was so proud. I was so proud. I didn't, jump and yell anything about Santa Cruz, but we're there. And actually, it's a work in progress and will remain that way forever. And it's all about coalition building. And with the coalition building comes the help with financing. And it's critical. And it was interesting to hear with like training for the students that some of them are dropping it down to the responsibility if it'll be in the classroom rather than trying to train all the kids on campus at one time. And also the importance of communication with parents, gaining their trust that we're going to be in contact with them as we know, and to try to stop an avalanche of parents showing up or spreading stuff on media that is not true, because that sometimes it appears to cause more damage. They also said that monthly meetings were important of all the stakeholders, that you have to keep this alive at all times. And I've got more information too, Ferris, but and they also have a celebration once a year of this and invite people and honor them for the work that they're doing within the community to bring safety to better and better. And the one thing I heard that really upset me was that 73% of the active shooters have known connections to sites. So it isn't random as we think. And they talked about Sandy Hook, who had just finished completing a rebuild of their school for safety, for protection from this, what happened to them. And that this is, the work has to be done on different levels than just a physical safety, with an eye towards that. They talked a lot about the need for board members to be advocates. There's 5,000 of us in this state, and we need to really get our voices out there, especially with the legislators who do not always comprehend what they're passing and how it will affect. And they were saying that we have to come in at the level of the meetings that precede the bill. I guess it goes policy, then goes funding, and then it goes on to the floor. But that we have to engage early, and that's by establishing good relations with our legislators. And with CSBA, we have, what is it called? Not a trainer, but a pacer, yes. And that person is our direct contact to the California state legislators. And she is more than willing to help us in any way she can. It also talked about the need for us to put the student first, and also the voice of the student is critical. And anyway, we're we're there, or we're getting there. Then another one of actually two that I attended, 2 sessions, were the relationship of the board and the superintendent. I would like to report that we're at the top. That there are counties that there is not communication between the board and the superintendent, or it's fraught. And wanting line item vetoes on budget. Did you hear me? Yeah, I mean, it surprised me. It really, really did. And it also talked about the NASCAR look of any kind of communication that we send out, where NASCAR has all the sponsors on, and that our communication should also be listing the people that are behind us or helping us, that it's critical to the public, but also to the person who, or whatever, who they need to see this. LCFF is close to extinct in the knowledge of the legislators, because that happened in 2013, and with term limitations, they're terming out. And so we are headed back into what is called categoricals, which is not always, it didn't prove out very, I mean, I was on a school board where pre-LCFF, and it's hard for the business office to deal with categoricals, and for the school districts too. So anyway, they wanted me to send a copy of our handbook to them. We are really going down the right path in establishing good communications between us and our superintendent. So anyway, I do have more information, but I'll be kind to our time.
Abel, who did a dynamite presentation at CCBE.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Definitely want to encourage everybody to attend CCBE. Very worthwhile experience. Very lots of information. You get to learn from a lot of other COEs across the state. You know what they're doing, what's working, what isn't, and it's just here as well in Monterey. So very convenient, you know, to make the trip down there. A lot has been said about the program, but one of the things that I do want to mention is that on top of, you know, the trustees, on top of the superintendents that do attend, there's also the capital advisory group that is there, and I really acknowledge and I appreciate their insight, just because they do provide, they do have connections in Sacramento. You know, they know what's going on. They can provide some insight into what the thinking is there. So they're definitely a good advocate, a good ally to have. And it's always interesting to hear what they're thinking, you know, or what they're saying. To kind of continue a little as to what I mentioned before. So the CCBE has a policy platform committee, of which I have been chairing for the past year. And this year we chose to focus on enrollment, focusing on enrollment as opposed to ADA. Just because that is a big challenge that not only here locally, but across the state, everyone seems to be facing. We see a little bit challenging just because of the year that we find ourselves in right now. California doesn't have as much money as it did last year, or we don't have the surplus, right, that we once had. So if we did make that move, it would be, you know, it would have a financial impact in California. And I don't know if right now is the right time, but so it's not an easy fight, but it's an important one nonetheless that we decided to move forward with. So throughout the year, I'm sure there'll be emails that just like AB 906, to support that one, there's going to be opportunities to support this one as well. And so that's one initiative. And then there was a second initiative. Interestingly enough, with acronyms, this one is also ADA, but of play structures, right? And that's American Disabilities Act. So focusing on that one, making sure that, that's another timely one. The fact that it's the COEs, we serve a lot of special ed students, and we just want to make sure that they have access as well, to play structures, to the same facilities that all of our students have and deserve. So that's kind of the dual initiative. Another one that we're going to fight, that we're going to advocate for. Not as expensive, so hopefully we can get some momentum and get that passed as well. Yeah, that's my report.
I had a colleague reach out and tell me about a conference. It's like an online discussion of like community and school leaders. And it was about the connection between schools and mass incarceration in the United States, which was one of the things that actually like kind of pushed me to be interested in advocacy in the first place. I think is like we all know, being in Santa Cruz, we have such an interesting population as we like go across the city from the side all the way over towards Pajaro, and the access to opportunity. It's just like every big city, it's wild how it can differ so much. And it was a really interesting discussion. I remember when I ran and kind of like bring this issue up to people, it kind of seemed like dramatic, or they couldn't always grasp like what the connection was between like a school board seat and this issue of mass incarceration or the prison, school to prison pipeline, but it's something I'm very passionate about. It was a really good reminder to just get grounded and, the things that the discrepancies between who we are incarcerating in the United States and the issues like race and ethnicity, household income, access to healthcare, drug education, and really just reestablish my connection, and all of the other school leaders that were on this call, connection between our schools and being proactive against those things. And as we see on our superintendent update, we have so many different initiatives that are focused on these issues that are making bigger things for students' lives. And it was just a really grounding and interesting presentation. I feel like it like reignited my passion for what I do. So it's always nice to hear the updates specifically around like drug education, mental health, all the things that we're doing for our students, and reminded me we're very lucky to be in this county board. So yeah.
Thanks for reviving.
Anytime.
Well, you all impress me with your trustee reports, and mine is going to be zip this month. I'm just trying to stand on my own 2 feet and get it through the day. And I'm sorry that I have nothing else to report.
We worked on on our resolutions.
Well, that was mostly these 2 people at the end of the table who had done that. And I'm thinking I'm going to be writing a resolution about prop, whatever it is, with the arts and music at schools. And I'll do some work on that, and I'll have a report next time.
Well, you're totally entitled to have your life as it comes to you. So. Trustees, I want to draw your attention to, I don't believe we have any ad hoc committee reports. There was an ad hoc committee to talk about the interview processes. You saw what happened, so that's our report. We do have a schedule. Our next meeting of this board is on October 19th at 4 p.m. And we saw a whole bunch of things that Ferris posted. Additional activities to be involved in, and I encourage everyone to show up for the diversity.
And excuse me, President Van Allen, though we don't have any ad hoc standing reports to share, I do want to let the Superintendent Compensation Committee know that I will be reaching out to schedule a meeting.
Thank you. Already been that long. Wow. Yeah.
We should give the paperwork over to Vernice that we took notes on because this is confidential stuff. And
yeah, turn in everything related to the interviews.
Yeah, I'm just
give it
gonna
all back to
drop that off over there, and you can decide what's confidential and
thank you.
Use the folders again.
Trustees, unless there's anything further on our minds, then we'll adjourn the meeting and see you all in a month. Thank you. I